Hello, and welcome to Let's Chat Death, Dying, Funerals and Grief with me, your host, Anna Bushell. Every month, I will be welcoming a special guest to chat all things death, dying, funerals, and grief. Not the most light-hearted of topics, I know, but that's the whole point of this podcast, to shine a light on these often seen as taboo subjects with a view to hopefully dispel some fears and encourage others to be brave and have these conversations. So, for my very first guest, I am delighted to welcome the lovely Jen Thomas, a spiritual leader initiator, and someone who has been in my life for nearly 6 years and mentored me in coming out of my spiritual closet. Welcome, Jen.
Oh, thank you, darling. What an introduction. What an introduction. And I am delighted and very honoured to be your first guest. So thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. So, Jen, please tell everyone about yourself.
Where shall I start? So no, I won't share my entire life story. But yeah, I spent the first kind of 20 odd years of my working life as in corporate. I was in corporate marketing. And I 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, I experienced a burnout. And actually it was the beginning. It was the beginning of everything turning out awesome. So at the time, it didn't feel like that at all. But it was the beginning. Yeah, it was an absolute rebirth. And I had my proper spiritual awakening, if you like. I'd always experienced intuition, and I'd had, a connection with angels through my teenage years. So it wasn't brand new to me, but it was very distinctive, and I knew that was going to be my path. So I retrained. I left corporate and I retrained as a life coach and NLP practitioner and a certified angel guide. And it was not long after that, actually, after I'd done my angel guide training, that I think you and I met for the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that spiritual path has opened up a lot for me, an awful lot. And I know we're obviously here to talk about death and grief and dying, and it really helped me make sense of some of that for me that I'd already experienced in my life.
So, are you okay to talk about that experience you've had of bereavement and grief?
Yeah, of course. So I've experienced many bereavements, probably far more than perhaps I should have done at such a young, tender age. But I lost a very close friend to a drugs overdose when I was 21. And that was a shock. That was the first person, of a young age that I'd lost. And it was, yeah, deeply shocking. And then a few years later, my dad passed, and I was 28, and it like he had cancer, so we knew he was going to go, but it still felt like a massive shock, a massive shock. But I think looking back at it, so this was nearly 21 years ago. So do the maths, people. That's how old I am. And you know, I only had, looking back at it, I had a very short timed process. He was diagnosed in the November and he was gone in the February.
Right.
So there wasn't really time for me to even get my own head around what that meant for me, for him, for the family, for the wider family. And I'd never lived with my dad. I'd grown up with him as a sort of disassociated parent in many ways, if you like. So we didn't have that perhaps normal or traditional close relationship. We'd never had any kind of falling out, but I'd only
Mm.
visited him a handful of times, a year, like in school holidays growing up. So
Yeah.
it was there was a lot to process, an awful lot, and not a lot of time to do it in. So yeah, but funny enough, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, that myself and my stepmom and my half brother, younger half brother, were with him when he died. He died at home, and you can't predict, you can't prepare. There is no you can't know what it's going to feel, but I certainly didn't expect the surprise. And also, in that moment, I felt this overwhelming feeling of, oh, I don't belong here now. Now that my dad's
Right.
gone, and of course I was very welcome, made very welcome by my stepmother, but
Mm,
it was that, oh, my dad's gone, so I shouldn't be here.
right.
It
Okay.
was really interesting. Well, it wasn't interesting at the time, but looking back
Yeah.
at it, it was a really interesting feeling that came up.
Yeah.
Mm,
And how do you think those early experiences of bereavement shaped you as a person
mm,
going forward into adult
yeah,
life?
I think the other unexpected aspect of bereavement and grief, I think for me was I've always been a very confident person, and it shattered my confidence.
Mm,
And I'm to this day, and I've experienced several bereavements since, um, and experienced the knock in confidence, and I still can't explain what that is
mm,
and why that is. I still don't understand it. Perhaps it is a shift in your identity, who you are as a person, and the role that you play in the world, perhaps.
mm.
Perhaps it is the overwhelming kind of, maybe it's shock or sadness or sometimes anger or what have you.
Or
It,
maybe is it that the complete shift in what you know and what is familiar to you
yeah.
has now gone, and it's you're faced with a new path that you've got to walk that
Mm,
is unfamiliar.
yeah, and one that you haven't chosen.
Yeah. And you've
Yeah,
not got the stability of the person
mm,
that you had before.
yeah, in the world that you know, as you know it,
Yeah.
it's suddenly, oh, I live somewhere different now, and I don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
Who am I? How do I behave?
And it's weird, isn't it? Because the world around you carries on.
Mm,
Everything else is the same, but
yeah,
fundamentally you're not.
yeah, and it's almost like you're walking around with this unseen kind of, don't you know what's happened to me?
Mm.
You know, even though life carries on, of course you do. But I think part of that confidence piece is, and I don't know, if anyone listening has experienced this or if you've experienced this, but people would say to me, I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember one of my friends saying it to me, and I was so angry. And I
Mm.
just, unfortunately just snapped back at her and said, well, I don't know what to say either. I've never been through this before either.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
somehow, like, what, how is it my responsibility to make you feel better right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And that
that
happens so much. And, you
because
know, I've
I'm
had
empty. I've done
conversations with,
nothing.
yeah, with women who have told me, or and men as well, that people have crossed the road to avoid talking to them
Yeah,
after they've
yeah,
lost, you know, their
yeah,
spouse. And you just think, how awful is it to experience that?
yeah. Because you're already feeling different, isolated, cut off, like your world has just
Vulnerable.
changed,
Yeah.
vulnerable, and suddenly, people don't know how to. And I think there is this British thing, right? Of,
Mm.
oh, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and well, I
Yeah.
don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah.
But
But
actually,
actually,
there
yeah.
isn't a wrong thing.
No.
Just and you can tell when people go, oh, hey, how are you, and written all over their faces, why did I just say that? Why
Yeah.
did I just say
Yeah.
that? And depending on your personality and who you are, you might just do the standard,
Mm.
I'm fine, thanks, yeah, we're doing okay,
Yeah.
all things considered, we're doing okay. Or
Yeah.
that humorous part of me might just be, well, absolutely awful, how do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally rubbish today, but thanks for asking. Yeah,
As it goes,
yeah,
couldn't be worse, but
yeah.
thanks. How about
And
you?
yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's kind of something that I frequently say to my families, being a funeral celebrant. I'll come in to see them, but I tend to ask them, how are things today? And that kind of just makes it a bit smaller, like
Yeah,
in
and
terms of,
less personal,
yeah, yeah.
because sometimes, well, not sometimes, most of the time, in those early stages, for me, I didn't know how I was feeling. I just felt numb and
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
people, how are you? I don't know. Who am I?
yeah,
I've no idea.
yeah. Where am I? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. It does. It is, and I think it's it's quite important for each of us to find a way to say that phrase which feels comfortable,
Mm,
so that in the future, when we are faced with that situation, that actually we have that phrase in mind that we know is an okay phrase to use.
mm.
um I was going to say something else then, and it's completely gone out of my head. But um, it is it is something that people do find really difficult to know
Mm,
what to say, how to say it,
mm,
because they don't
mm.
want to make you sad. But then, a lot of people tell me, well, actually, I want to talk about the person. The fact that you have
Yeah,
said their name actually
yeah.
shows how much they meant to me.
And it's
And
a source of comfort.
yeah, and I'm feeling
Yes.
rubbish anyway. So, you
Right.
crossing the street and not talking to me is actually going to make me feel 10 times worse. So, you
Yeah.
know, just be brave, just be courageous and say, how are things today?
Yeah. And, if they do burst into tears and they are really upset, that's okay.
Yeah.
Why are we so scared of people crying?
I don't know. It's the British stiff upper lip.
Yeah, maybe. Or
Yeah.
maybe, do we feel some sort of responsibility to make the other person feel better?
Yeah.
Well,
Which in itself
no.
is a whole other thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And maybe it is just give the person space to cry. If that's
Yeah.
what they need in that moment, to stand there
Yeah.
and go, I'm here.
Yeah. Do you
I'm
want a
here.
hug? If not, yeah, I'll just stand with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my sleeve. If
Yeah.
if you haven't
Yeah.
got tissue,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so important. And I do wonder sometimes, about this thing of, you mentioned, you're walking around and your world has fundamentally changed, but nobody else seems to notice that. There was a time that we used to wear, a black
Mm,
armband, wasn't it, to indicate that we were in mourning, and that
mm,
things like that seem to have sort of gone out the
mm,
window. But
mm,
in other countries like Spain recently, they've declared so many days of mourning, so
mm,
it's
mm.
accepted that people will be
Yeah,
not quite themselves. I mean, a couple of
yeah.
days doesn't really cover the journey of grief, but we do
I
seem
think,
to have moved away from that.
and yeah, there's this. I don't know if it's just a British thing. Maybe it is. I don't know. But there seems to be, it's this, everything's private, everything's behind closed doors.
Mm,
And, we don't want to intrude on that. But actually, I, I was going to say I quite like, I don't know if that's the right word, but let's use it for now. I quite like the Mediterranean way, like the Greek way
mm,
of, the women are vocal. There is wailing,
yeah,
and they come together to do it. And there is, the parading down the street. A, it's a ceremony, but it's an expression,
yes,
outward expression of feeling, that
yeah,
is the shock, the surprise, the sadness, the anger, all the stuff, right?
yeah,
And it's a kind of, the community come together to release. I quite like the idea of, I mean, I quite like this around any big emotion, but I quite like the idea of just kind of walking up a hill together and just standing at the top and screaming, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because there aren't words, are there?
No, no.
I
Yeah.
quite like that. Yeah, a collective wailing. Great.
Yeah.
Do that.
And people do it. You're right. They absolutely do it. Do you
Yeah.
know, I wonder if like it's a bit of a hangover from the wars, like World War Two and World War One, where, you know, everybody pretty well much lost someone. And it was a case of, well, we've all lost somebody. We've just got to crack on and build the country back up again.
Yeah.
That's just a
Yeah.
thought, really. It's just something that
Yeah.
sort of popped into my mind, whether it's something
Yeah.
to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think as well that that kind of era also mm, kind of instigated or cemented the don't air your dirty laundry,
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
It's the, don't be a burden to others. As to your point, everybody's going through it, so deal
Yeah.
with it. But also, I think there was unknown then, but there was PTSD going on.
Mm.
So it was sort of, well, look, you can't outwardly express what's going on for you for, like, don't upset your father,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the PTSD could trigger,
Yeah.
a violent response, alcohol or, all
Mm.
sorts of different
Yeah.
coping mechanisms because there wasn't, therapy and emotional support and
Yeah.
counseling like we know it now. And we
That's a
just
good
didn't
point.
talk about things.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that vein, how do you feel about death and dying, especially with like all the spiritual things that you have been learning and studying and embracing?
Mm. I think, yeah, it's how do I feel about it? I feel far more positive about it. Like when I was a teenager, I used to be terrified of
Mm.
dying,
Yeah.
absolutely terrified of it. And and I'm not now. I don't like the idea of how the ending of this body arrives. I don't like the
Yeah.
end. I don't like the idea of that. But the ending itself, I'm like, actually, I'm all good with
Yeah.
that. No, not,
Yeah.
not. I don't mean that to sound as dark as it does, but
No.
I think because my learnings and belief system around the spiritual aspects are of oneness, and I don't want to go down the route of, you know, nobody's really gone, because that to me, it is a spiritual concept, but it's not a
Mm.
human one for me. So yes, I have an ability to have a level of conversation with my dad in spirit that there is no way could have happened when he was still alive. But do I wish he was still alive so I could have those conversations in person? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not the same. It isn't the same.
Mm.
So, but the spiritual aspect for me almost has created a doorway,
Right.
an open doorway that I can choose to walk through. And that and it always gave me some sense of comfort that the spirit of the people that I'd lost, the soul or the energy or the echo of the people that I'd lost existed in some other form.
Yes. Yeah.
But that didn't stop me missing them.
Yes. Yeah. Which is the very human side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it is allowing both, but allowing, myself to draw upon the spiritual energy, if you like, for
Mm.
comfort, to
Yeah.
support in the missing and the grieving and the shock and the upset,
Yeah.
um, but not to replace, because I don't believe in that at all.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So do you feel that's really helped you then with that viewpoint?
Yeah,
Mm.
I do, and particularly in, healing that non-existent, essentially, relationship with my dad, because
Mm.
the next level of grief that I experienced was grieving the dad that I'd never had.
Right. Yes, which is very common.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
the
that's tough.
relationship that I didn't have. And
Yeah.
how can you fix that when the other person isn't there?
Yeah.
And for me, that the consciousness, the spiritual consciousness allowed that healing to take place. So
Okay.
as bizarre as it may sound to some people, I actually feel like my dad and I are in a really good place now. We have a really good relationship now, right?
Yeah. Excellent.
Um, and I know in a completely different sense, in the way that he wasn't able to as a human being,
Mm.
he supports and protects me now.
Right.
And,
Okay.
that's my belief system,
Yeah.
which is comfort to me, but it doesn't need to be anybody else's belief
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
I think it is about drawing on comfort and resources that support you, whatever way
Yes.
that is for you, as long as they're healthy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of your own death, this is quite an interesting question because
Okay.
we don't really like to think about our own death, do we? But if you could arrange your own funeral, without the worry of cost and things like that,
Mm.
um, have you given any thought as to how you think you would like it to be, how you might want it to look?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest with you. I have never considered that. I've absolutely, having faced my own mortality, I've absolutely thought about the death
Mm.
and my death, but I really haven't thought about what that means for those left behind.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, everyone. Um, but yeah, so thinking about it now, then, um, I think what I would like it to be is something very simple and uncomplicated, and an opportunity for those that may wish to celebrate my passing in however they wish to do that. That there is a togetherness for people to do that. And for me, it would be nature based.
Right.
It
Yeah.
would be, yeah, just go for a walk in the woods, you
Mm.
know, just do do something nature based, do something that where you can feel connected
Yeah.
and held. And I would like it to be, you know, actually, I would quite like it to just be small and intimate. I wouldn't
Mm.
want like a big parade. I've
Yeah.
never been that kind of person.
Mm.
So I'm coming up to my 50th birthday, and I had this conversation with a friend about there being this expectation for a big party or a celebration. I'm like, I've never wanted that. I
Yeah.
just don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
Intimate conversation. That's what I enjoy.
And it's interesting because actually the majority of people will say a very similar thing, the no fuss, don't go mad. And
Mm,
it's interesting because my response to that is always, well, funerals are for the living.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and you know we're not about, well, I'm certainly not about to go stand in the town centre with a megaphone and shout, my daughter thinks I'm the best mum ever. Cringe, not going to do that. But Evie might choose to decide and go stand in the town centre and shout, I've got the best mum ever.
Mm,
Which is why people do midnight memory walks or, complete really extreme athletic events in memory of someone.
mm,
um, and I think that's the one of the things about funerals is that we forget about that it's actually for the living,
yeah.
um, but also it should be about who you were as a person. So
Mm,
putting requests in about, well, actually, I really would like it nature themed or orientated, because you can have services anywhere as long as you've got the landowner's permission. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
you have to legally dispose of the remains, but you can do anything, and there's all sorts of different types of coffins even
Mm,
where you can have shroud coffins made out of wool.
right. Mm,
Yeah, or you can have a simple MDF coffin that people can write on or draw things or.
mm,
or that you can put flowers in or something like that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's, and you sort of, when you start to think about that a bit more, you sort of think, actually, yeah, what would be really nice?
mm,
um and it's
mm,
having the bravery to have that conversation with your
mm,
family members, whoever your next of kin is going to be.
Yeah, I do think that so we have had a recent passing in the family. And one of the things for me, I'm a distant member, but one of the things I've observed in what other members of the family are journeying through with this is that the person that passed had written a funeral plan.
Mm,
And I thought, oh, what a blessing. What a blessing for her husband and her children.
yeah.
That in the midst of their pain and grief,
Mm,
they haven't got to think about that,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
do. I really, it's really opened my mind and
Yeah.
eyes to that, because previously I've thought, oh, just go for a drink,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just go
Do
for,
whatever.
do
Yeah.
whatever you like.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it's helpful for people almost to know, like, this is what I was
Yeah.
like, and thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go see if we can do a service in the woods and celebrate nature and my
Yeah,
cycle, the end of my cycle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And please
Yeah.
do feel free to have me cremated and scatter my ashes wherever you
Yeah.
so choose,
Yeah.
with the
Absolutely. Yeah.
with the wind blowing in the right direction.
Yes. Yes. I've got other tips on about how to do that as well, but always keep low down to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lower the better. Yeah.
Yes.
But even things like music, song choices and things like that, that's really personal. And quite often I'll come across families that they don't know what music to choose because the person wasn't very specific about certain stuff. And
Mm,
then I say
mm,
to them, well, what music makes you think of that person, and to
mm,
try and
mm.
capture their essence that way.
Yeah.
So going back to this whole big sort of topic of death, dying, funerals, and grief, is there anything around the subject that you actually struggle the most with?
Not these days, I don't think. I think because I've journeyed through so scarily so many of them. But I think it is that what we were talking about earlier, it is the people not knowing what to say,
Mm,
but also, you know, if you're the, because I felt that too, I lost a
mm,
friend to cancer a couple of years ago, and at his funeral, seeing his wife, and I had a moment of, I don't know what to say to you.
mm. Yeah.
And I just, in that moment, I remembered, I know who she is.
Mm,
I know,
yeah.
she's not alien to me.
Mm.
We've known, I
Yeah.
was at their wedding.
Yeah.
I know. So I just walked up to her and went and said, "Hey, you look really well, and that was a beautiful service." And
Yeah.
we just chatted because we're friends.
I
So
find one of the phrases, I'm sorry for your loss. Excuse me. I find that really, look, I'm even choking on it. I find it that
yeah, yeah,
difficult.
yeah.
I don't know. I struggle with that.
Well, it's a statement.
As a funeral celebrant, when I ring a family for the first time, I can't say that I'm sorry for your loss because it sounds so contrite for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But
But that's
also,
just me.
yeah, I get that. And I think a lot of people feel that. But I think as well, it's I'm sorry for your loss. It's just a statement.
Mm,
Uh, you know, I- so the person is most likely to respond with thank you.
yeah.
Then where do you go?
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
so perhaps it is, I'm so sorry for your loss. Um, and then put something else on there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of you, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's all you need and you walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but I think this definitely, this crossing the street to
Yeah.
avoid people that you know and love.
Yeah.
Look at nobody going through the grief journey, whether you're in it yourself or an outside observer, nobody finds it easy.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is just accepting, I don't find this easy, and I
Yeah.
accept that.
This is uncomfortable, but I'm going to
Yeah,
do it anyway.
yeah,
How much would that person grieving appreciate the fact that you've gone, out of your comfort zone
yeah,
and actually taken the time
yeah.
to stop and
And to just treat them
just,
like you normally would.
yeah, treat them like a human being,
Yeah.
not
And
somebody that's
like,
got the plague.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
your friend, or whatever the relationship is with them,
Yeah.
treat them the same.
Yeah.
They haven't just grown another head.
And also the actual effort to go out and leave the house, that,
Huge,
that
huge.
takes a lot of courage. So
It does.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. I remember actually the Reverend saying this about, when my dad died, that you would open the front door and there would be a gaping black hole
Mm.
that you may struggle to get. You may not even be able to get across.
Yeah.
But gradually that black hole changes shape, it shifts, it moves, it gets
Mm.
smaller. Maybe someone comes along and throws a cover over it so you can walk across.
Yeah.
Maybe that is your friend turning up.
Mm.
Do you fancy going for a walk?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, not do you fancy going for a chat? Do you want to do that? Do you
No,
just fancy going for a walk? You
nature's a
know,
great healer.
right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're not looking at each other.
Yes, that side by side. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but that it's literally the bridge, isn't it, over that black hole,
Yeah.
that scary
Yeah.
black hole. Oh my God, if I take a step, I'm going to be consumed by it.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, there's that friend. Or,
Yeah.
they don't have to be a close friend.
Mm.
Sometimes actually pretty disassociated friends can be great, because they'll just chat a load of rubbish and you can
Yeah.
just be
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Because sometimes it's good to get out your head.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, in healthy ways.
Yes, in healthy ways. Yes, obviously. Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
because
Jen.
I've tried all the other ways, and the healthy ways are definitely better,
Yeah.
because you just
And
have to do it all over again anyway.
exactly. And that's a really good point, is that if you find that you are getting stuck and you are relying on things that actually are not good for your health overall, that's when you know that, okay, I need to get help, and it's
Yeah.
okay to ask for help.
Oh,
And
yeah. And
uh,
if ever you were in a position to ask for as much help as you could possibly ever need, that is the time to milk it for all it's worth.
yeah, yeah. And
People,
there's nothing wrong in that whatsoever.
exactly. And people love to help. Think about how much we love to help. Like, I'll fall over myself
Yeah,
to support and give to
yeah,
somebody, so
yeah.
allow somebody else to do that for you.
Yes. Yeah,
Allow them that feeling of, I've helped someone today, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Oh,
beautiful.
fabulous. Jen, as always, it's been an absolute delight to chat with you today, and we could chat forever, I know. So thank you so much for your time and your wonderful insights, and being honest and open with this pretty heavy
Mm,
subject.
mm.
And I really appreciate that you've given your time to share your insights and shine a light on it.
Well, don't look, thank you for asking me. And how important a conversation I believe it is. So it's been
Mm.
my absolute pleasure to be here and share my thoughts and insights. And I genuinely sending loving light energy to those that are listening to this, that may find our energy, our conversation, our words helpful and supportive.
Thank you, Jen. Love it.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Bushell, and you have been watching Let's Chat Death, Dying, Funerals, and Grief. Until next time, take care and see you soon.